You won't believe what unfolded in this courtroom when a judge tried to publicly humiliate Snoop Dogg thinking he was just another loudmouth celebrity. But just minutes later, the judge would be the one in handcuffs. What led to that jaw-dropping moment will leave you stunned. Morning light filtered into the central courthouse of Los Angeles, illuminating a scene that would soon become a milestone in legal history. Reporters, witnesses, and curious onlookers crowded into the courtroom, all waiting for something extraordinary. Whispers filled the air. They'd heard Snoop Dogg would appear, but nobody imagined he was about to expose a corruption case far bigger than anyone could have predicted. The tension in the courtroom rose the moment Judge Howard Gates entered. Known for his arrogance and merciless demeanor, Gates made no secret of his contempt for anyone he deemed unworthy of standing before him. And in his eyes, Snoop Dogg was just a noisy celebrity, hardly deserving the court's time. To Gates, the courtroom was meant for legal experts, not a stage for people with questionable fame. Taking his seat at the bench, Gates surveyed the crowd with a hint of annoyance. His voice rang out, laced with sarcasm. "So, Snoop Dogg has finally been summoned to court. Let's hope you don't confuse this place with a concert venue." A smattering of chuckles arose from the back rows. Yet Snoop, dressed in a dark suit and wearing a composed expression, remained calm. He offered only a brief nod before sitting in the witness box. Early procedural matters crawled by, as though Gates was deliberately stretching them out to flaunt his authority. At last, he fixed his gaze on Snoop and demanded an explanation of why he was present and what he intended to show. Most of the lawyers and onlookers assumed this would be a dull hearing about finances, but Snoop's deep, steady voice soon painted a startlingly different picture. "Your Honor," he began, "I'm not here as a celebrity, and certainly not to entertain. I'm here to speak the truth." Those simple words made the entire courtroom grow still. Snoop met the judge's stare without flinching. "I've collected evidence that certain powerful individuals have been siphoning public funds from a construction project into private ventures. And someone's been trying to stop me from bringing these facts to light." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Cameras flashed as reporters snapped photos, and lawyers exchanged quick glances. Judge Gates let out a derisive laugh. "Vague accusations. You realize this court needs evidence, not sensational stories, right?" He emphasized vague as if to quash any hope Snoop had of being taken seriously. But Snoop remained unruffled, producing a thick sheaf of documents labeled with details of a public construction budget. It was tied to real estate developer Charles Lawson, a man once deemed untouchable due to his extensive political connections. These financial statements, Snoop explained evenly, show that the project was initially approved for a $200 million budget. Yet Lawson managed to withdraw almost twice that amount. Even more suspiciously, there are no supplemental documents explaining why the budget ballooned so drastically. He flipped a page, highlighting a figure in red. And here, we see a signature from a high-level official approving this extra funding, someone who's also implicated in a series of questionable transactions. Gates let out a contemptuous snort. "A signature? Some official? Sounds like you're just throwing around half-baked accusations. Maybe you think this is a flashy rap performance, but this is a courtroom, and I'm not impressed by a stack of random papers." The atmosphere in the courtroom grew more strained. Snoop placed the documents on the evidence table and calmly fastened the button on his jacket. "Your Honor," he said, "if you'll allow me, I have something else. These are not just pieces of paper. I have an audio recording, and it'll reveal exactly who's involved and how deep this corruption goes." Gates hesitated, taken aback, but still putting on a haughty front. "Fine. If you want to waste the court's time, go ahead. But I warn you, if this recording is irrelevant or obtained illegally, you will be held accountable." His voice turned sharp. Snoop nodded, pulling a small recording device from his pocket. He pressed play. A low, cold voice echoed through the silent chamber. "Make sure Snoop Dogg never gets a chance to speak. If he shows up, we'll handle it so none of his evidence sees the light of day. Judge Gates has agreed to deal with the legal side. Relax, this'll be shut down before he can intervene." A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Heads turned toward Judge Gates. He went pale, gripping the edge of his bench. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Reporters clicked their cameras wildly, while lawyers stood wide-eyed. Gates's name had been uttered clearly on that tape, hinting at a major conspiracy to bury evidence. Taking a deep breath, Gates tried to regain control. His voice rang out. "That recording is inadmissible. Where did you get it? Was it court-sanctioned? This could be doctored or edited." Snoop held his ground. "Your Honor, this was lawfully obtained. I've been working with certain federal investigators who have been monitoring this situation. I have the proper authorization to present it in court." Right on cue, a court official entered with another file, handing it to the prosecutor. The prosecutor nodded, confirming, "Yes, Your Honor. This is the warrant, signed by Federal Judge Brown, authorizing the collection of this evidence. The recording is fully admissible." The courtroom erupted in hushed chatter. Gates's face turned red with anger as he tried to retort, "Enough. This is all a setup. I'm ordering a recess and dismissing these so-called evidence files." But Snoop wasn't finished. He revealed another document, a copy of a supplemental budget approval. Projected on the large screen in the courtroom, the signature Howard Gates was unmistakable. Next to it was an image of a suspicious financial transaction for Lawson, far beyond any authorized limit. It all fit together, painting a damning picture of corruption. "I don't want to blow this out of proportion," Snoop said quietly, "but the facts speak for themselves. You, Your Honor, signed off on these excessive funds for Lawson. And you also conspired to prevent me from ever presenting this information." The entire room erupted in gasps. Gates jumped up, slamming his hand on the bench. "Who do you think you are accusing me? You're just some celebrity. You think a few scraps of paper and an edited recording can bring me down? You're defaming the court." But his anger seemed hollow. Snoop's evidence was too comprehensive to dismiss. The prosecutor carefully examined the documents, nodding at their legitimacy. Lawson's defense attorney looked flustered, unsure how to respond. Reporters sensed a colossal scandal, their cameras clicking nonstop to capture Gates's meltdown. In mere minutes, the courtroom's mood flipped entirely. Where Gates had once mocked Snoop as a clueless celebrity, he now faced the prospect of being arrested on the spot. The prosecution and court officers conferred briefly. Finally, a uniformed officer stepped forward with an arrest warrant. Snoop Dogg has presented credible evidence that Judge Howard Gates engaged in obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and the unlawful authorization of funds, the officer announced, voice resonating throughout the courtroom. "We are taking Judge Gates into custody pending further investigation." A moment no one ever expected, Judge Howard Gates, arrogant, powerful, was handcuffed at his own bench. He tried to struggle, shouting incoherently, but no one paid heed. Cameras flashed, capturing the downfall of a man who, moments earlier, had tried to humiliate Snoop Dogg. Snoop stood calmly among the crowd, unruffled. He did not gloat, simply maintained the same composure he'd shown from the start. "I just want to remind everyone," he spoke into the reporters' microphones, "no one, no matter their rank or fame, is above the law. If you do wrong, you must pay the price." The room fell silent at those words. Some were stunned, others jubilant to see justice served. Reporters rushed forward, shoving microphones in Snoop's face, demanding details about how he gathered his evidence. He answered briefly that he'd worked with federal agencies for a long time, waiting for the right moment to reveal everything. After the uproar subsided, the judge presiding over the day's proceedings declared a recess. Outside in the corridor, throngs of people surrounded Snoop, peppering him with questions. On social media, clips of the epic reversal spread at lightning speed. Headlines read, "Judge insults Snoop Dogg, ends up in handcuffs, historic moment. Rapper exposes corrupt judge, or justice prevails. Snoop Dogg outs power-hungry official." Within 24 hours, major TV networks ran special segments on the case. People dissected how Snoop, supposedly just a rap star, had marshaled such ironclad evidence and coordinated with federal investigators. Some speculated that beneath his celebrity persona, he was a savvy businessman and social activist well-versed in law and finance. Others noted that he'd likely faced threats and intimidation, but persisted until the truth finally came out. Public outrage soared. How could a judge misuse his position and collaborate with powerful businesses to embezzle state funds? Many called for a comprehensive investigation into the entire construction project and demanded a review of past cases over which Gates had presided. The judicial system, under intense media scrutiny, had to initiate serious reforms. Citizens hoped this would be a wake-up call that no one could hide behind authority and escape justice. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg received a flood of praise. Yet he refused to claim personal glory. In a televised interview, he merely shrugged, "I'm no hero. I just did what needed to be done, so people know they aren't alone, and so those in power realize they can't hide forever." He urged the public to stay vigilant about public spending, warning that where there's big money, corruption often follows. The spectacle of Judge Gates in handcuffs quickly became legendary in legal circles. Nobody could forget the image of him struggling furiously, face reddened with indignation, while Snoop Dogg, once ridiculed as an uneducated celebrity, stood unshaken, as if he'd anticipated every move. Tales spread of how Gates had sneered at Snoop just minutes before becoming the defendant himself. A few weeks later, further investigation revealed that Gates had indeed taken bribes from Lawson, helping legitimize multiple dubious financial transactions. Lawson was arrested too, facing charges of money laundering, fraud, and corruption. Numerous high-level officials involved in the project were summoned to account for their roles. Countless contracts and financial statements came under scrutiny, forcing several officials to resign. People in Los Angeles and across the country cheered Snoop's bold expose. The incident served as a testament that the underdog can sometimes flip the script in astonishing ways. Power does not guarantee impunity, and fame does not necessarily mean superficiality. In that courtroom, Snoop Dogg proved that armed with truth and determination, anyone can tear down a wall of injustice. As the hearing concluded, the final image was Snoop Dogg exiting the courthouse, quietly and humbly. Reporters swarmed him, firing off questions, while supporters applauded. But he only smiled and thanked them, slipping into a waiting car. He knew his mission was far from over. Many other scandals remained to be exposed. Many other victims needed a strong voice to speak on their behalf. Before the car door shut, he turned back to the gathered press. "Justice isn't a luxury, it's everyone's right. We have to fight to keep it. I'm just one of many willing to do so." From then on, every mention of this case included the phrase "spectacular reversal" to describe how a once powerful judge was arrested in mere moments by the very person he had mocked. It became a symbol that no one can forever hide behind the law, and that wrongdoing is bound to be unmasked by those who dare to stand up. The final snapshot of that day, Judge Gates, outraged and handcuffed, while Snoop Dogg, calm and resolute, watched, remained imprinted on the public mind. Amid countless scandals in the entertainment world, this incident reminded everyone that celebrities can be more than just entertainers. They can be warriors for justice if they choose to speak up and hold the truth in their hands. Ultimately, the story also carried a powerful message. No one is above the law. If you have the courage and the evidence, justice will be on your side. Only minutes earlier, Snoop Dogg had been treated as a laughingstock by the judge. Minutes later, that same judge was being led away in handcuffs. A stunning reversal indeed, leaving everyone both shocked and exhilarated that right had triumphed over might. That day began with the arrogance of someone in power, but ended with the triumph of someone who refused to surrender the truth. It served as a stark reminder. No matter who you are, if you abuse your authority and obstruct justice, the truth will eventually prevail. And when it does, it can take only a few minutes to topple someone seated at the highest bench. Amid the crowd's cheers and the barrage of cameras, the final lasting image was Snoop Dogg's quiet smile and his parting words: "Believe in justice, and never let anyone silence you." Thank you for following this story. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. If you'd like more inspiring stories about justice and resilience, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll be back tomorrow with another must-see story you won't want to miss.